Hey, welcome back to CKLA Chats. I am DLC Foster Yankee, and joining me is my co-host.
Hello, I'm Ashley Giles, grades 4 or 5, district literacy coach, team 3.
All right, today, or in this video, we're going to talk about lesson 12, concluding your story of aspiration in the 4th grade, unit 6, contemporary fiction, which is all about the house on Mango Street.
And I love that title because it says concluding your story because this is the last lesson of our unit. Yay!
Celebration Day.
Yes. Yes. So remember, this live recording is specifically geared towards principals, skills specialists, APs. It's going to be a quick synopsis of the lesson. So when you enter the classroom, you have the gist.
Mhm. All right. So no core text for this lesson. It really focuses entirely on student-generated writing and speaking and listening. So there is no structured reading activity. However, students may refer back to examples from the vignettes as the writing assignment is introduced. All right, so let's start with writing. Our cub is students will know what happens to the central character of their aspiration story. They'll understand the ways their central character developed or changed, and they'll be able to write a concluding chapter for their story with a focus on character development and the theme of aspiration using the writer's journal. Okay, so 3 subcomponents to the writing component. The first is planning your conclusion. In this section, you'll see the teacher reminding students of the writing they've done so far throughout the unit and telling them that today they're going to conclude their stories. The teacher will direct them to Writer's Journal page 12.1. Let me make sure I have that. Yes, right here. To plan out their chapter before writing, you may see the teacher write the planning questions on the board, which are the same questions that they have on their activity page or their Writer's Journal page. The teacher would also give them some guidance into what to make sure that they include in their final story based on the feedback that's been given to them throughout the unit, just making sure that there's something they're being cognizant of as they write the conclusion of their story. And then the teacher will facilitate a 5-minute discussion to ensure they understand each prompt, each question on their planning page, asking for one example of how they saw these ideas in the house on Mango Street. So they would ask, what happens to your character? Okay, give me an example of how we saw that in one of the vignettes in the house on Mango Street. Or how did the character's aspirations change? Talk about that. So always referring back to the text so they can mimic the things that they've seen Miss Cisneros do. The teacher is going to encourage students to apply the questions to their story as they plan their conclusion. Their answers can be brief because it is just planning, and they'll write the chapter in full later. Students will plan independently and silently for 10 minutes. For support, the teacher can lead the class through planning by having them answer one prompt at a time, taking about 2 minutes while the teacher circulates. And again, they're just answering the prompts. They're not actually writing the story. They'll come back together for a 5-minute partner share where students will share their ideas for their conclusion with their partners, and the partner would share something they would like to know more about. And then the teacher will allow 20 minutes of quiet work time for students to compose their final chapter on Writer's Journal 12.2, which is here. It's just a blank page for writing. There are some prompts in the universal access portion of the lesson that the teacher can provide for the students just if they're struggling to get started, offering that support. So the teacher will remind students to try to address all the questions they discussed about their characters' aspirations and growth. Students will raise their hand if they have questions or need help. So the teacher will confer with individuals and just circulate to ensure that they are writing. The teacher will also provide guidance to the students and refer them back to the prompts on 12.2 or the prompts on 12.1, as well as the sentence prompts that they're providing for support. Additional supports are to, like I said, provide prompts, work one-on-one with students, pair students up, also allow them to orally rehearse their stories before they jot them down on paper. They could also ask students to expand and provide more detail in their writing. And for students who are even farther advanced, ask them why and how questions, just to prompt their thinking while they're writing, or to prompt them to expand their writing, elaborate. So that is the first component. I think that's actually the first and second subcomponent. Were you going to add something?
Well, no, I was gonna say, well, that was heavy planning,
Yeah.
for the component and asking those evaluative questions just to help to make sure that the writing is centered around the correct topic or the prompt.
Yeah. And I think on the teacher's part, it requires them to be very intentional about what questions they are asking the students. Like, what are you going to ask them to get the kind of writing that you're expecting for that final draft? Last part is partner feedback and revision, working with a partner for 10 minutes. Students are going to exchange their writer's journal with a partner and read their partner's conclusion quietly. The teacher is going to provide guidelines for the type of feedback students should give to their partners. And when they're done, the teacher will provide a few minutes for them to make revisions or changes in their work. And that wraps up the writing section.
And so that'll bring us to our listening and speaking section. If you notice, the writing component is very heavy because they're preparing for their presentation. And keep in mind that this is the end of the unit, so teachers could, really set this up as a celebration, like, a reader's theater type thing, or author's chair, or just hopefully teachers are being creative because it's the conclusion of the unit and the students are presenting their own writing. And so there are two components in this section. You have the presentation of their narrative. And basically, here, this is for 30 minutes. They're going to present their stories. They're going to get a chance to share, and students are going to be listening to their conclusions. The teacher should remind them, authors in real life share their stories with, online, they share them on TV interviews. So just really pump the kids up and get them excited about sharing their stories of aspiration. However, you decide to select your students, I mean, just be creative with this. Like I said, it is the end of the unit. And pretty much after that, well, as the students are presenting, you have listeners. So the listeners, the audience has a job. The audience's job is to evaluate as the author is reading. So do they think the character has achieved the purpose of aspiration? So these are things that they are listening for when the students are sharing their conclusions. Um, do you think this character's aspirations have changed? So did they indicate that change in their writing when they were listening? And how do you see the characters develop empathy? So that goes back to, what was that, lesson 11?
Mm-hmm.
The word empathy. And so students are listening in to be able to answer those questions. So basically, it gives them a job to do. Uh, how the teacher projects these questions, is it going to be like on a piece of paper? Each student gets a copy. Are we going to write it on the whiteboard? I think that's solely up to the teacher on how she wants the listeners to respond. And then after that, all the students, once people have shared their writings, they all will, that takes us to the next section, which is the reflection section. And this is a whole group activity, only for about 10 minutes. And basically, you're going to facilitate, teachers should be facilitating a discussion surrounding how they developed as writers. So hopefully we have created these writers during this unit, because that's what the bulk of this unit was about, their writing. And I think it's an ideal time, Sarah, because what's coming up? The STAR test. I mean, I hate to say it, right? But in this unit, they were able to do lots of writing, lots of revising, going back and changing their thoughts and their craft techniques. And so students are now going to be reflective about how they are as writers, how they have come along. Um, So this, they could write these reflection questions in the board. So the students will have a variety of questions, just asking them basic reflective questions about their writing. Um, for example, how did reading Sandra Cisneros' stories help you develop as a writer? So they're, thinking and responding to how this unit has affected them and changed them and made them to become better writers. And finally, after that, teachers should encourage them to keep writing, and that will keep writing. It's all for a purpose, and congratulate them because it's the end of the unit. And pretty much that's it. That'll conclude our Unit 4, House on Mango Street.
All right. Click to the end. All right. We hope you found our Unit 6 videos beneficial. Um, thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.
Thank you.